Hello and welcome to Talking Loud. I am the host, Cynic the Critic, and joining me today we have our users. We have Muppet Spot,
Yes, it is I, Muppet Spot, still here.
and we also have Yoshi Player.
Hello, welcome back. This is our first time recording in 2019. I know we still got other podcasts coming, but they're still in production. I mean, what? Okay, yeah, hi, I'm Richard Player. Hi.
And unfortunately, Vossi couldn't join us today, but we have our honorary member, the Cartoon OG, joining us.
Yay.
Hello.
So for today's podcast, we are going to be talking about the first new episodes we got from the Loud House for Season 3, because we're still in Season 3, it's still not over yet, but we got our first new episodes of the year, so let's talk about them. The new episodes we got are Predictability, Driving Ambition, Home of the Fave, and Hero Today, Gone Tomorrow. So 4 new episodes, and then we got like another one coming up real soon, which is technically the season finale, even though we've got a few more episodes, but that would be Cooked, which we'll be talking about in the next podcast, so stay tuned for that.
Entering the episodes out of order, I don't know. I hate it when they do that.
It's just a habit. It's a habit Nickelodeon has. I don't know why. I guess they want to save particular episodes for certain points. But then again, why do that? It just doesn't make any sense.
I mean, technically, Tripped is the season 3 opening episode, but that didn't come out till like
it didn't come out till like June
that was, like,
or something.
Months after like the first official episode of the new year last year.
The first episode to air was Roadie to Nowhere, which was a good episode to start the season, but not technically the first episode.
Even though from what I remember, Roadie to Nowhere was actually episode 3 of the show of season 3. Trip was the first episode, and I can't remember the Rabbit episode and Instagram were episode 2, and then Roadie to Nowhere was part A of episode 3. But anyway, let's not get off topic.
Okay, so we're gonna talk about the first episode that we got for the new year, and that's Predictability. After discovering he has rituals, Lincoln worries he's predictable and vows to change it up. So, do you guys have rituals or like things that you have planned to do every single day?
Aside from my usual day-to-day activities like get up and just eat and do whatever, or take a walk. Well, if it's not raining, because it's raining in my area right now because it's winter, but
well, every day for me pretty much plays out the same way. I think
the only thing I have that's due to like a strict schedule is just when I go to work, since I work the same hours every work week. But aside from that, we have
I think every single day plays out exactly the same for me. I just get up, have breakfast, brush my teeth, maybe have a snack later on, watch or play games, and then have lunch. Everyone comes home, we have dinner, bed. It's like it just plays out exactly the same. I'm like, wow, my life is boring.
I mean, it's the same for me. I mean, I don't do everything the exact same time every single day, but day routine for me.
Yeah. So I mean, for me, I kind of have a schedule of things that I just do on specific days because I'm in college and I'm trying to make sure that I get my schoolwork done, but I also have to make sure I get other things done as well. Like I gotta make sure like I get up at 6 and then I go to the gym like after like 20 minutes, and then I have to like make sure I go to breakfast after an hour, and then I have to like make sure I do homework at this certain time, and then that way I like had to calculate how much time it takes for me to get to my dorm to this certain class and all that sort of stuff. And then like when I have to go to bed so that way I can get a full 8 hours, and then I don't end up oversleeping, and then I end up like missing out on going to the gym and whatnot. So like for me, like I could definitely understand like the idea for this plot, and I mean for me this isn't a bad idea for a story. I think that when you do get older, you do start to develop rituals and habits that you do every day, and things that you do just kind of come to expect because you just do them so often and whatnot. And for me, I don't think this is a bad idea for a story. I just don't really think it comes together all that well. I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad episode, but it's just very meh.
And like I said, really, I don't have too much to say other than I just thought the episode was boring. It was just Snoresville for me.
It's an episode that lives up to its title, essentially.
Right, it's
Predictability.
predictable.
It's very predictable. But
So there was one funny little joke.
I guess that's some sort of a metaphor, but we'll get to that in just a bit. Okay.
There's only one really funny joke, and that's when Rusty gets hit.
Okay, yeah, thank you for bringing that up because I was going to. I mean, for the episode again, I think the biggest problem for me is that Lincoln here feels like he's miscast. I feel like this isn't really something you would find from an 11-year-old boy. This almost sounds like something that would be like fitting for someone who's an older character, like even someone like Glory, who I know has gotten like 20 billion episodes so far this season, but I don't know, I feel like this would fit more for her. Or maybe even like an older character that's like not really a main character like Mr. Grouse. I wouldn't even mind seeing that either. I feel like for Lincoln, he's 11 years old. He's a kid. I don't really know why he would have rituals or something. Like, this almost sounds like something that would come out of a plot for like young Sheldon or like...
Why did you have to bring up the Big Brain Theory?
I don't
I don't know. It's the first thought that came to my mind.
That show is so annoying, but let's not get into that tangent.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, because like I feel like even as a kid, I think yeah, some of the stuff I can do is honestly predictable. I think when it comes to the whole predictable thing, it's more like the habits he does at home rather than the usual stuff he usually does with himself. It's just I think the episode should have been a bit more clear on that. I'm not saying I necessarily agree on that. I'm just saying, you know, I think the way they handled it was like, okay, you could have been a bit more clear. Like, is it just the stuff he does in his usual day, or is it everything he does? I think the episode should have been a little bit more clear on that.
Like this is just saying that this is the stuff he does every single day. And I mean, I'll admit that when I was around Lincoln's age, I did also kind of have my own rituals, but that was because my dad forced me to, because I have a really bad habit of procrastinating, and he was trying to make sure, like I got up at 7, and then I immediately went to the shower, and then had breakfast, and then left to go wait for the bus at this certain time. Like, he pretty much wanted to make sure, like, I didn't forget things, or I just put them off. I mean, as far as the rest of the episode goes, I mean, outside that Rusty joke, I thought the rest of the comedy here was very weak. The characters didn't really provide much. I mean, outside of Stella, who I thought was the best part of the episode.
Yes, I was very happy to see Stella come back, and I almost felt like in some way they wanted her to replace Rusty, because he's only in the episode at the very end, and she's kind of taken up that spot that he's usually
honestly,
in.
Go for it. Seriously.
I honestly would rather have Stella
honestly,
than Rusty.
I don't really think anybody actually likes Rusty, as far as I know.
Well,
And all the Rusty fans are crying right now. It's just
I mean, sorry. I mean, if you like the character, that's cool. But I'm just saying, I just don't get his appeal.
it's fine to like something. It's just doesn't mean we have to necessarily agree. Of course, we're not always right, but you know, it's just an opinion. But no,
We're
Russ.
being subjective here, guys. Yeah, we're being subjective here, guys. Like, just calm down.
Yeah, I
But
know
anyway,
sometimes
now
it
let's
can
get to-
come out
now
that way.
Now let's get to the worst part of the episode, which was Clyde.
Clyde.
Oh
Yeah.
boy. Okay, so in this episode, Clyde is being very worried about Lincoln acting different. He's so
He's being
clingy.
very-
It reminds me a lot of Ralph Breaks the Internet, with how Ralph is very clingy to Vanellope. But you know what? At least in that movie, even though I didn't think it was done well, it sort of made sense because you know she's a kid. He's like a big, strong man. It makes sense. In this episode, Clyde's just clingy for no reason. And I know Clyde and Lincoln are best friends and all, but this is also coming from the same kid who wanted to do all this extreme stuff in Snow Way Down. Like, to suddenly go from that to this, it feels jarring at worst.
It feels like this is only done for a joke. It's just the problem is the joke is just really not funny.
It actually feels like Clyde is like a couple to Lincoln.
Oh my god! I mean, the gay jokes I could come up with they're just endless. But
You know,
I'm not
maybe
gonna
they're
get
trying to
into
build
that.
up to something, but I don't know.
I mean,
I mean, every time Clyde starts getting all nervous and gets all mean to Lincoln, it's just stupid.
I mean, honestly, I don't have too much else to say about this episode, but I do want to bring up the dream sequence around the end. Because, like, that was one of the aspects that I think people were kind of talking about the most out of this episode. I mean, outside of the whole Stella thing, but the dream sequence towards the end and how, like, it's sort of become a meme almost in the community.
Though that face is ugly.
Right. I mean, yeah, the face, which many people have deemed as the next big meme for the fandom, which I mean, I haven't really seen much of, but okay.
Lisa's right face was better.
But all right, here's the thing I want to bring up is that, in a weird way, that scene almost kind of felt like a commentary about fans like us, who others deem as quote unquote too serious when it comes to taking this show. Like we're too harsh. Like we're no fun. Like we just judge episodes like way too critically and whatnot. Like we don't just like view them and have fun with them or whatnot. And this is sort of like Lincoln like doing all of like this new stuff, and the audience, which I guess is almost symbolically supposed to be us, is still saying that like we've seen this before. Like it's nothing that great or whatnot. Like it's not that original. And like Lincoln's still doing all this stuff and whatnot. In a weird way, that scene almost kind of felt like it's sort of like pointing a finger at us for like being too mean about this show or something like that.
No, I don't want more shows to do commentary like another cartoon does nowadays.
Right, I mean, which honestly doesn't really work. I mean, it didn't work in Fandom Pains, and it doesn't really work here either.
Okay, Fandom Pains was an episode that was outdated before it even got made.
Right.
Or aired.
If the show wants to point this stuff out, it needs to be more subtle about it. It can't just be like, oh, we've seen this before.
Well, just looking at the title of the show, subtlety isn't exactly in the Loud House's favor.
Or at least it used to be, but man, not anymore.
Before anybody types in the comments saying like, I can't, like saying like we can't enjoy anything that's predictable and whatnot. We always want stories that are like all grand and creative and whatnot. That's not the case. We can enjoy an episode or a story per se that is predictable as long as the content itself is engaging. Like even if it's a story where we've seen it 100 times before, if we're invested in the situations that are going on and whatnot, and if the story can still keep things entertaining, then it's not going to be that much of a problem. It's just that with this, when you have a predictable story, you have to make sure like the content itself with the character interactions and whatnot, you still want to be engaged. And the problem is that it's not that engaging. So like I want to point that out just in case like anybody wants to like just say like we like can't enjoy a story that's predictable. Now I'm pinpointing like my reasoning as to how a predictable story can work.
We have a predictable episode this week, right?
Right. I mean, like all the episodes this week are predictable, and arguably, I'd say only one of them works.
But anything else you guys want?
I mean, I have nothing else to say about this episode.
I don't know. This is a quirky thing I always like to point out. Maybe this is just the weird shipping kind of quirky guy I am, since I am sort of into that stuff. But I found it kind of cute how Stella was the first person Link would want to be partners with that wasn't Clyde. Like maybe I'm jumping to the conclusion too much, but I don't know. I still want to see something between these two. I mean, I don't want Stella in my heart to just kill that off. Like, no, I refuse to believe it. Come on, guys.
I was right, still.
No.
Yeah, you were.
No, it doesn't matter. She's still there. That's all that matters to me. She still does have dialogue.
It doesn't really matter. I mean, the fans want to see Stella and Girl Jordan together now.
This fandom has some really weird shipping sometimes.
But, alright, if you guys have nothing else to talk about, I'm going to move on to the next episode.
Yeah, let's move on.
Please do so.
Okay, so the next episode is Driving Ambition, when Lori finds out that the golf coach from her dream college is coming to see her play. She develops the yips. So we finally got an episode that a lot of people really wanted, where it explores Lori's hobby for golf. That's something a lot of people really wanted.
Drew, you should have kept your mouth shut, because now we've got a Lori episode.
Hold it. I want to bring up one thing.
What's up?
We should mention that this episode might have been a rewrite of what was the original idea for this episode.
Oh, right. Yeah, apparently originally Carol was supposed to be in this episode.
So, it looks like Carol got purged by Thanos.
I don't know. Like, I guess that was a rumor that someone created, and I guess people started believing it. Which, I mean, for me personally, that didn't really change my opinion much in this episode. Like, Carol or no Carol, like I wasn't really that interested in this because I mean, for me, I was like, do we really need an episode about Lori's hobby for golf? I mean, it was one of those things. I was like an offhand reference in like a few episodes, and now it's suddenly this big important thing about Lori's character, which I feel like they're adding this in just to make Lori more interesting.
Golf is not an interesting sport. Unless you play mini golf.
Right, it's not. And I'm not saying that to be a jerk and just assume that anybody who's into golf is boring. Like, you could still make that interesting if, again, like I said with the predictable part, if the content itself is engaging. And I mean, I could make that same argument for Driving Ambition because this episode just falls into the same trapping that predictability had. It's predictable, but it's also really not interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I'll talk about the things I liked in this episode. Okay, for one, I mean, I wasn't really crazy about all the other sisters appearing, but I didn't mind them. And I thought the flashback we got of Luna, like, how she got over the yips and, like, how she pretty much, like, played the cello. And then just...
It was the harp!
The harp, thank you. The harp, and then immediately destroyed it. I thought that was funny. It was probably the only joke in this episode that worked. And that's about it.
Actually, I like that whole thing in general, to be honest. I like how, well, aside from the other sisters, they didn't really leave much of an impact, but I liked the different ways that Luna, Lynn, and Lola helped Lori with her anxiety. I thought...
Okay, I will also say this. Lynn is in the episode, and this is probably one of her best appearances yet. I didn't mind her at all here.
I was actually delighted.
She wasn't really that annoying.
She was actually helpful for once.
Yeah, I didn't hate her. Like, I was like, why can't Lynn be written more like this? Then I wouldn't dislike her as much.
At least written in a way where her help is coming from something related to sport and being used in a different way. Why can't they be like
although
that?
Muppet has issue with Lynn's way of getting over yips.
Well, do you know what talcum powders is used for? I'm not gonna say what it's used for, but it's when you develop a hiking rash.
There we go, Muppet. You're pretty much like gonna like nitpick something and make it into a big deal. This goes back to the whole thing of Scales of Justice about how you didn't like Luna in that episode.
It didn't fit in her character. I'm a nitpicker. I'll admit it, but not like a super big nitpicker.
Yeah, that's super nitpicky.
Oh,
It's a cartoon. Sometimes it's not meant to be serious. And yes, I know I always criticize the Loud House for being over the top, but it's true. It's a cartoon.
Well,
I can buy it.
Yeah, which I mean, like, okay. I also think that argument's a little bit ridiculous. I mean, because like as of right now, like we live in an era where like people will make like 30-minute videos discussing an episode of My Little Pony, like a cartoon for 6-year-olds. They'll make like 30-minute discussion videos going in depth about it. So I don't want to hear the argument about how like pinpointing every detail about a cartoon is ridiculous. Because
I'm just a nitpicker.
so like we've been seeing a lot of in this decade. So
By the way, I know this is very off topic, but Drew, but you say more likes than Lenny.
I'm what?
Never mind. I'm just being stupid.
Okay, alright. So, I mean, as far as this episode goes, I mean, look, I thought the story itself was just not that interesting.
I think the
For
real
me, it just kind of
complaint...
felt like a retread of Down and Out.
Really? Because I don't recall anyone pointing that out.
I mean, for Down and Out, that was an episode where also Lori was in it, and I liked her role better than that episode. And not to mention, she told a story about how she got over, like, the yips and anxiety and whatnot. Like, she was telling that story about how she's going to, like, this dance or something with Bobby, and she was worried about whether or not she would win, like, prom queen. But she still went, and she still had a good time, even if she didn't win. So now, all of a sudden, she's got the yips again, and all that's just been retconned. But I guess
Actually,
the big
that is
difference
a
is,
good
like,
point.
it's her dream college.
That is actually a good point. I can't believe I never thought of that.
I mean, like, for me, that's just kind of like how I viewed it. This episode essentially just retcons Down and Out almost entirely. Because, like, now you have Lola being the one that's talking about how she got over her yips and anxiety. Even though, like, wait, Down and Out was pretty much an episode about how she got over it. So,
It's a
So I guess
role
that
reversal
episode's fun?
episode. Essentially a role reversal.
Right.
I guess so.
And I mean, as far as Lori goes, I just didn't really care that much. And there are parts here where I thought she was trying way too hard to be amusing, especially towards the second half, where she just started going crazy, and it was more sad than anything else. I was like, wow, they were trying way too hard to make her funny. And if anything, it reminded me of some of the worst parts of Change of Heart, when Lori just pretty much just went off the rails in that episode.
Fuck you for
Oh,
bringing
you
that
had to make it
episode
change
up.
hearts.
That episode... Fuck, that episode's so bad. I can't believe you brought that up. Mm.
Oh, great.
I
But,
hate
I mean,
that episode so much. But no, save my complaints for a different episode later. My biggest issue with this episode is the goddamn comedy. Because, you know
okay,
how
yeah, the
you
comedy.
mentioned how unfunny Lori is? Everything in this episode is so unfunny. Like, holy crap. This has to be one of the unfunniest episodes I've ever seen in the show. Not
Yeah,
just
this is some
season
of the
3.
worst jokes in the
Not
entire
just
series.
season 3. Period. Outright period.
And that's because like most of the jokes here are all from Lincoln, who is in the episode. Who's in the episode? The reason why he's in the episode, he's in the episode for two reasons. One, he wants to be Lori's caddy so he can make some money off of it. Like he wants to learn how to be a caddy so that he can make money. Okay. And two, he's in the episode because a lot of people love seeing Lincoln and Lori together. Like whenever an episode comes out with Lincoln and Lori together, many people just go nuts for it. They think that they're the best sibling pairing ever.
But it's not the focus of the episode. So why? So how am I supposed to care? This isn't about them. It's about Lori. So I just don't feel anything when it comes to seeing them together. And that's coming from someone who absolutely loved seeing their bonding together in the waiting game, which is still probably the best Lincoln and Lori episode that they've ever had. I would say Fair to Remember, but I'm talking about more like how their relationship is handled.
Right, we'll get to Lincoln in a little bit, but I think Cartoon OG was trying to say something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know you said nothing to do, but if I can bring up a positive with this, I did like the interactions that Lincoln and Lori have. I thought their interactions were kind of cute.
I mean, I guess you can say they're kind of cute. It's just I really got nothing out of them. They were just like, well, okay.
That was
Because honestly, if you like,
Well, for me it's positive. I wasn't too big on this episode either, but I'm gonna go a bit easier on it than you guys will. So
yeah, and then like we have like the message of the episode.
yeah, like don't get me wrong, I didn't care for it either, but yeah, I see it as anything to like really complain about or anything.
Right, and then we have like the message of the episode, which is again the same as Down and Out. It's like it's about like getting over anxiety, and there's also like having this message about like even if you failed something, you'll still have another opportunity in the future and whatnot. And my whole problem with this is like how all of this is executed. It's so cheesy and just really overly sentimental. It feels like a giant lie, where it feels like it pretty much wants to just like tell you whatever bad thing happens to you, like give you like a warm hug and just be like everything's gonna be okay. Like there'll be better things in the future. Like it just kind of like I might be coming off as kind of cynical here, but this is just I don't know. It just reads to me as just really phony.
Okay, Daria.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Personally, I think it would have worked better if she had lost, but
I mean, for
still
Down and Out,
right?
Lola lost,
Like, yeah, like I think that would have actually
and
made
that was
the
handled
message.
really well.
It would have at least made the message of this episode a little bit more clear. Because if Lori
Like, you're
lost,
not gonna always get everything you want in life.
Exactly.
That's just part
as
of
long
life.
as you just have those good moments, that's all that matters.
Not to mention
Yeah.
having a backup
Yeah.
plan is also very useful too.
Yeah, like I said, even though I'm gonna go easier on this episode than you, yeah, I have to admit that ending. Oh my god, it's just it just feels so phoned in, and all I could think to myself is, oh man, I really wish that it had just ended in a way where she doesn't win the game, but she's still hopeful for the future, because that way at least it would have been more genuine. But the way it was done here was just phoned in, and
Right. So I mean, yeah, going back to Lincoln's role in the episode, like I honestly was just annoyed with the material that he was given for jokes. I mean, he's essentially playing the butt monkey, which from what I've seen, people aren't really bothered by that all that much. And my issue I have with this.
I just ignore it. So
I mean, my issue I have with this is, well, two. One, he doesn't really deserve like any of the stuff that happens to him here.
Like-
He didn't really do anything wrong. I mean, yeah, he wants to help Lori so he can learn how to be a cat and make some money. But even then, like, it's nothing that terrible. And my second issue is like the jokes given to him where he is playing the role of the butt monkey are so cringy. Like,
Some of them
like,
don't even
it's-
have a joke. Like, there's one
Like-
moment where he walks up to pick
Oh,
up a golf ball, and then he's picked up by the windmill from his shirt. I'm like, what's the joke? It happened so
There's
suddenly.
no joke there. It's just like, oh, Lincoln's like so stupid. Like his shirt gets caught in the Ferris wheel. Like there's really no joke there. And there's like also another one where Lori's trying to like putt a golf ball out of like a sand pit. She keeps missing, and I was like, oh, let me guess, the joke's gonna be that Lincoln's covering it, and yeah, it is.
Oh yeah, that's one thing. Most of the misery that happens to Lincoln is thanks to Lori. So again,
It's all
I'm
undeserved.
another reason for me to not care about seeing these two together. And look, I have nothing against butt monkeys. I think if they're done well, it can be really funny. I have nothing against how it's handled. You've got to give a reason for it. The reason old SpongeBob worked with how Squidward was being the butt monkey of most of the joke is because he deserved it. He was being a jerk to the characters, and so it made sense why all this bad stuff was happening to him. It was funny. Oh yeah, that's one thing. At least it was funny. But here, not only is it not funny, but I just don't feel like Lincoln deserves it. Maybe this is just me being a soft head, but still, it just didn't feel right to me. And I've had a lot of experience when it comes to writing characters that are essentially butt monkeys. I've done it before in Styx. I'm sure I'm probably going to do it at some point during Ordinary Girl. But you just gotta make it. And I know what you say. Like Lincoln, he's doing this because he wants to make money when he gets this job someday. But that's for the future. Think about now. He's assisting. He's learning how to do this. So how does that make it any more deserving? It doesn't. At least to me.
it's not like he was being a greedy jerk or anything.
Exactly. He just simply wanted to be an assistant just to learn how to do it. He didn't seem
Anyway.
greedy at all. If he did, this would be deserving, but it's not deserving. It's just so
Okay.
cringy.
But anyway, let's move on because I think now we're just drilling this point into the ground.
Mhm.
Okay, there was something else I did want to bring up. It doesn't really have anything to do with the episode, but it's a video that I saw yesterday, and it was one that was like a top 10 cartoon characters who are hated for stupid reasons. Like not hated by fans, hated in the show. And funny enough, like a character from Loud House was on there, but it wasn't Lincoln. It was Lola.
Okay, do we need to get in a whole rant over the Lola hate?
Like no, not from the fans. In the show, like the characters, like a character who is hated by other characters in the show.
Come on, man. Don't you think?
Oh,
Like I saw
okay.
Lola there, and I
I
was
mean-
like, "That's hilarious."
I get that it's.
What
Wait, was
yeah,
it?
but what
Was,
does this
was
have
it?
to do with the episode?
I don't know. I just figured I'd bring it up because Yoshi was going off about the whole butt monkey thing, and I just figured I'd bring it
Okay,
up
a
because
character
a
deserving
lot of people
hate
would have
for no
thought that
reason.
Lincoln would have made
That's
the
even.
list, but
That's
whatever.
that's even worse. I mean, come on, man. Lola doesn't deserve the hate. Sure, she
But-
can be bratty, but
anyway,
she's
should we
6
just-
years
should we move on to
old.
the next episode now.
Oh yeah, speaking of
Okay.
Lola, next episode, please. I'm done with this crap. This is the only episode this week I actually considered bad because of how cringy it was, just how it seemed to throw its message out the window. But
Okay, so Home
enough
of
about
the
that.
Fave. After a pun-filled trip to the grocery store with Luann and Lola, Dad worries Lola thinks he plays favorites. Yeah, so you guys have siblings, right?
Yes, I think all of us do.
Yep,
Yeah, I have
I
two younger
have-
brothers.
I have 2 sisters, and they're both older than me.
Like, did your parents
I have
like
a
ever
brother.
kind of like play favorites, like choose like one sibling over the other as the one they like?
No,
No.
No,
not at all.
nope, not at
Yeah,
all.
that didn't really happen with me either. I mean, as far as I know, again, I was a kid, so I mean, I wouldn't really know.
I never saw that.
Yeah, I mean, I just bring this up because I feel like for this plot for the episode, it is actually an interesting idea. Is like playing favorites of like when you have multiple siblings, like some of them might get the idea that one is favored over the other and whatnot. Which again, I think it's kind of an interesting idea, but this is for Loud House, and I feel like this also could go really badly, or it could turn into like another like siblings to fight over petty shit episode. Which I mean, we all love that.
Can we not go into that tangent again?
You're
But
making
now we
this
have
a
Home of the
habit.
Fave, and
I will want to
yeah,
kill
thankfully
you
this
after
episode
this.
is not like that. And honestly, I thought this was a pretty solid episode.
It was.
Me too. I thought it was the best of the week.
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great episode.
I liked it as well. So there was one thing I have to mention. It's a nitpick.
What?
The whole. Shut up, Yoshi.
Here we go again. Gee, what's it
What's
gonna
your
be this
nitpick?
time?
It was the beginning with Luann and her punditry with Lynn Senior.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
That's more or less a nitpick. I think that's an issue that I think we all have with the episode. It's like the first minute or two.
And I
I mean,
don't.
it's not, I mean, it's not that long, but
All
I
I
mean,
can-
this is coming from someone. This is coming from someone who doesn't mind puns most of the time. But oh my god, was that so cringy? I was even upset that they turned one of the puns into a reference to gas humor.
Okay, yeah, that was cringy. I mean, the first minute or two of this episode had me worried because it essentially opened with Lincoln slipping on a banana peel and then having eggs on him, and I'm like, oh no, please don't go in this direction. Thankfully, it doesn't. And okay, yeah, the first minute or two, like when they're at the grocery store making those puns, it was cringy, but at the very least, it was intentionally cringy. Like, at least you could tell other characters knew, like, this is really annoying.
Uh-huh.
Luckily, it doesn't
So, I
last
mean,
that
I can at
long,
least
but
say
like-
I
but
didn't
like
hate
said-
it.
Yeah, but like I said though, but like I said, the part where Senior makes that one pun and he turns into a reference to gas, and we're like, I thought it was like, oh god, he's not gonna fart, is he? Thank God he didn't. But if he had, that would have just upset me.
Yeah, so, I mean, for one, I was surprised that Luann and Lola don't get that much to do. If anything, this is more of a Lynn Singer episode.
Even though they're mentioned in the plot, but
And
they're more
and,
side characters.
and
Back
I
all the
actually wasn't
siblings.
expecting all the sisters to get involved, and there actually wasn't a whole lot of Lynn Senior Lola interacting as I thought there would be. That was just for that one sequence.
Right. Yeah, and yeah, which, I mean, I'm fine with. I wasn't really bothered by it all that much. And for all the rest of the episode, I did enjoy it. I think Lynn Singer did a lot to carry this episode, and he did really well. Especially during that scene of where he's, like, spending the day with Lola. Like, I thought that whole scene was, like, really adorable.
Lynn Senior is the best princess ever.
And then we
Like-
also get like a flashback of him as a kid, and like his parents are explaining like he had siblings and like his dad would play favorites and whatnot, and like he enjoyed cooking, but like his dad wasn't really into that, and he'd rather go do things with his, like his his older brother,
I don't
one of his
remember.
brothers. And then like of course like he gets locked out of the house, and that's how the whole like dang it catchphrase like started.
Actually, I just hope we never see an episode with Lynn Senior's other siblings.
I don't think we will, but we'll see. Yeah, and then after that whole thing, like that's when like Lynn Senior starts spending time with all the other siblings, because then he's worried that they're gonna think like they're being left out, and like he doesn't care about them as much. And that's where I do kind of have to. That's where I do kind of have like my first issue with the episode. It is a little bit repetitive. I feel like a lot of these scenes just kind of feel like they have a lot of the same setup and same results of what we get or whatnot. It didn't bother me too much, but I'll admit it did get a little bit repetitive. And it kind of felt like it was just there to fill out time. But I mean, it wasn't too big of an issue for me, and I still thought the scenes themselves were, for the most part, amusing.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the episode, when they're at the grocery store, we see the same clerk from Serial Offender, and then later they bring back the whole thing of Legends of the Hidden Temple from the episode Legends, both of which were episodes that Miguel Puga worked on, and this was Miguel Puga's directorial debut.
Awesome to know that. Yeah, I was surprised that some of the callbacks we got to this episode. I mean, with Legends and then also the Crying Game. Like I thought that was a nice addition to the episode.
And like I said, those were all episodes that Miguel Puga worked on, and he directed this one.
Yeah, which I give him props for what he did here. He did a nice job here, and I also liked the ending here, where like Lynn Singer admits like he was worried that like the siblings would catch on that he's playing favorites, which they end up admitting like, you know, like we don't think you're playing favorites, and then like they end up like giving reasons of like why like he would think that, which again I thought it all concluded really well, and I like that they never turned this into like a petty situation. Like it resolved itself pretty well, and I mean, I thought the episode all came together pretty well for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, me too.
Right. Although there is also another thing. It's not a nitpick, but it's something that I found kind of amusing. When you do see Lin Senior in like the whole dress outfit and whatnot, like you see like his dress, like it's short, like it doesn't like the bottom where the skirt is, like it's high enough where like you see his legs. But there's like one part where he's chasing after Lin, and then suddenly the dress now has gone down to his legs up to the point where he like trips on the dress. I thought that was kind of an amusing, like, I don't know, like error, because like you can clearly see like the dress is short, but in that one moment it's long enough for him to trip on it. I don't know, I thought that was funny.
That's weird. It kind of seems, yeah. It kind of seems like they made like a little consistency error for a joke, but the joke.
Right, which
works.
then like Lin Senior's like, that's what I get for running in heels, and I'm like, no, that's what you get when you run in a long dress. But okay.
But yeah, like I said, this is a solid episode. I had little.
Oh, and also
really
there
have
was a
any
reference to
complaints.
Peanuts in this episode.
What?
Lin Senior, when Lin Senior was laying on on Charles's doghouse.
Oh, yeah,
and Walt was on his big nose.
Oh right,
Okay.
yeah. Which I mean, like at this point now, every other episode will have like a Peanuts reference in it. That's
Oh, by the way, before we move on, can we just quickly talk about a certain deleted scene in this episode?
okay. Thank you
Because
for bringing that up.
There is
Yeah, like
one storyboard thing that was cut out from the episode.
Pet Cemetery?
Yes, the Pet
Oh,
Cemetery.
three jokes that were cut out that probably saved the episode.
Which one?
Yeah.
What? I only heard about the cemetery one.
yeah, that's like the one where like after Rita mentions the whole pony thing, then there was supposed to be like a cutaway gag showing like the grave of that pony.
Yeah, not just that, but also graves for a bunch of geos. I'm like, holy crap! How many hamsters did?
No,
they-
man, that was kind of dark.
That was very dark. I don't know if that would have fit for this show.
But yeah.
It's so funny. I say kind of dark, and then you say very dark. So we clearly have different viewpoints on what's considered dark.
Dark ass,
There's deleted
please.
scenes.
There was two other ones. One where Lenny was cutting Lisa's meat with her hand,
Okay, yeah, that was kind of stupid.
and
God,
one where it was a big group tug, and then
Then pushes
where
them.
yeah.
I'm glad
They-
that was cut out. I'm really glad it was, because if it did, then that would have annoyed me. Especially since, again, I also didn't mind Lynn in this episode. In fact, she actually had one of my favorite jokes here,
Yes, the
where
sandwich-
she
the
and Lynn
sandwich
Senior
scene.
are eating a long sub, and just the way she's eating it, it looks like Pac-Man. Whenever
Yes.
like Pac-Man, like in the arcade game, and like how we like usually eat stuff and whatnot. That literally looked like Pac-Man. How she was eating it. I just thought that was funny.
Yeah, it's funny how
Yeah,
the
yeah.
best joke from
That was
Lynn is
amazing.
a visual joke and nothing that she actually says. Maybe they should do that more often.
Just not with gross out, please.
Yes, please. None of that.
Okay.
Thanks.
farting.
Well, all right. Well, if you guys have nothing else to say about this episode, I'm
I
gonna move on to
really
the
have nothing else to say. We might as well move on to the
Hero
next
today.
episode.
Hero Today, Gone Tomorrow. When Lynn's friend Margot is celebrated for a 1 in a million soccer goal, Lynn has to try and be supportive. Oh wow, Margot's coming back. I'm super excited to see that.
Yeah,
I thought Margot got
apparently there's a big fan base for Margot out there, which I guess
Yeah,
you know, fine.
Margot has a lot of fans, and I'm kind of baffled why.
I mean, she doesn't really have much of a character. She's just there as a side character. I don't even know what her personality is.
One of Lynn's
supposed
friends.
to be.
That's all we really know about her.
I'd
That's enough
rather-
for people to be like, we want more Margot.
honestly, I'm
Get it, so.
It's honestly worse than seeing Clinker McCloud because at least Clyde and Lincoln both have personalities. And I'd
But all right, going into Hero Today,
Anyway.
Gone Tomorrow, I'll admit I was really skeptical going into this because I mean, we've been getting a lot of episodes from Lynn this season,
This
and
is
most
like her
of them have
fifth
not been
episode.
that good.
This is her 5th episode this season. We need a break of Lynn next season.
We
Who
do, and
knows?
especially now this is coming off of Sitting Bull and Middlemen, 2 episodes I still don't like. I was getting this sneaking suspicion that this wouldn't be that good. But if I'm being honest, this is way better than those episodes. I'm not gonna call this good, but it's actually not that terrible.
Eh,
I guess I was mildly surprised, but then again,
I mean, like, I'll talk about the things I like in this episode before I get into the things that I had issue with. For one, I thought like even though I wasn't really crazy about Lynn in this episode, I did like how she was written towards the very end of the episode. When well, not really her, but more so like how the story centered around her is written. And I mean, I think the whole message about how like even when you're not in the spotlight and your friend is, and you're jealous about that, you should learn to like be more supportive about that and not just make everything about yourself. And I think for Lynn, that is a message that would be very fitting for her. And unlike NetGames, I feel like the message here is better executed. I feel like for NetGames, it was just way too plain and dull for how they portrayed that message. And again, I think that for Lynn, that does work for her character. And we also do get a character here returning aside from Marco. We also get Paula, who was also in NetGames. And honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing more
I
of her.
actually liked Paula in this episode. Like, I'd rather see more episodes with her than Margot.
I don't know. Maybe it's just because Cree Summers voicing her, who is awesome.
Yeah, she's.
But I mean,
awesome
like, I
voice
thought her
actress.
character was actually kind of amusing. She sort of plays like the observer in the episode, the one who's just kind of like viewing everything and sort of like questioning like how Lynn is doing and whatnot. Not to mention, she had like probably the best joke in the episode where it's towards the end where she says, "Oh wow, you and Margot have a literal beef with each other while she's eating a hamburger." I don't know. I thought that was kind of fun. Maybe that's just maybe that's just because it just reminds me of like whenever I hear beef, I think of like hip hop beef and like rappers like going against each other with diss tracks and whatnot. But that's just what I thought of. And Margot got a new voice. I thought it sounded nice.
It was better than having Margot sound like Liam, because
Right,
they both
yeah,
used
like,
to be
the
voiced
voice
by
act-
the same actress, who voices
Yeah,
Lisa as well.
Yeah, the actress playing Margot this time around is the lead character from Belle and the Bulldogs. I don't know anything about that show, but
I don't
that's
know
just
if she's
from what I
going
heard.
to return as
Right.
Margot, so don't expect like Margot to have the same voice. It could be Laura Jill Miller.
It's
or this
probably
could be her
only
last
because she
episode.
had a larger role. That could be the reason why.
Yeah.
I won't
So,
be surprised if they just write off Margot after this episode. Remember how everyone wanted to see Carol return?
Okay, I don't see that happening because even before this episode, Margot still showed up in a bunch of like cameo roles. So her fans are gonna want her to return. Like again, Margot fans, they will pretty much dedicate their life to seeing her return. But I mean, what about you guys? What are some things that you took away that you enjoyed out of this episode?
Well,
We have to. Cartoon
for
OG
me,
has another one.
Sorry, I'm tripping on my words, but like I said, Apollo was kind of interesting, and like I said, and for some voice actors I like in the episode, I mean, it's always cool to hear John DeMar. Oh, and Lauren Tom came back, who was previously in Middleman. It was cool to hear her. This is the second time Cree Summer has been in the show, and both times it was in a Lynn-centered episode. Oh, and here and Cree Summer was in there. The two of them were in Batman Beyond, so it was sort of a reunion. And because John DeMont and Lauren Tom are here, it's also a Futurama reunion because we have Bender and Amy both in the same episode.
I mean, my main issue I have here with this episode, it doesn't really have much to do with the message. It is well executed. My issue I take more of this episode comes to the story. I mean, because just like with all the other episodes this week, it's predictable. But I think what's made it even worse is that it is very repetitive. Like, all the scenes here, it all felt like this episode was just in a giant circle, where it just kind of felt like the scenes were just playing out in the same setup and same fashion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it felt like we were watching like Groundhog Day or something. Which I mean, for that film, yeah, scenes are repeated, but at least they keep things fresh by like having each scene that's repeated something different happening.
You know, like with this episode,
Bill Murray
it's pretty much like, as you said, a circle. Like at the beginning, Lynn's getting a bunch of praise and popularity from all these people. Then Margot gets a good goal, and then all the exact same thing happens to her. All this, it just keeps going back and forth over and over again. It is so repetitive, and there's nothing new to it other than a different character getting all the praise.
Right, it's either Margot getting a lot of praise and Lynn getting annoyed by it with each passing scene, or Lynn is essentially getting praised by a lot of people, and that happens like at the very beginning and then like towards the end. And I'll admit, like the first 2 minutes of this episode, I was getting super annoyed because it's like, well, part of it also comes down to the fact that the town apparently really loves like soccer. And like,
Not another boy's a bummer.
like they really love soccer, like so much so like whenever like somebody like wins for their town, they'll like change an item on the Burp and Burger menu just to like to their name. Like, you pretty much won the game for our town. This item is now the Lintastic sandwich, or I don't know what it was called.
Yeah, that was just really dumb. I mean, this is the thing I don't get. I mean, do local towns really care that much about the kids' sports teams? Because
It's
No!
such a
It's
90s
ridiculous.
sports
I mean,
cliche.
No,
I mean-
actually, they hate sports teams more. If anything, they're rude at restaurants and everything.
Right.
They hate sports teams more. They don't give big tips. It's actually the opposite. They're like, oh god, it's the local little league or something.
yeah, like I said, that whole thing of how the town seems to care so much about like the little league, like kids' sports teams. I mean, that's just so ridiculous. I mean,
And it's not even that funny either. Like, it's just
there was something that reminded me of. I'm not going to bring it up. So
It reminded me of that crappy Simpsons episode, "The Boy's a Bummer."
Mm-hmm.
And
Except
then-
it's very much the
and
reverse.
essentially like, and like all this is really done, but for me, what gets annoying is just like everyone just praising Lynn and just talking about how awesome she is. Like, she's so amazing at sports. Like, she gets all this like praise and all this free stuff. And I mean, this just might be because I just don't like Lynn, but I kind of found it annoying because I'm like, all right, it's been 3 seasons and it's been like 3 years. We know Lynn is great at sports and that people love her for that. Why do we need another episode reminding us of that?
I don't know.
But I mean, so yeah, and again, like, I think the issue I have with it is just like, again, it just makes every other character here look completely ridiculous. There's even a scene where Lynn goes home and then Lincoln's here, and that scene literally felt pointless. It felt like it was only there just to, I don't know, make the episode a little bit different by like not having the same scene over and over again. But again, it just made that scene pointless because I'm like, what does this add?
And besides, why does Lincoln even
Lincoln
need
ha-
to be in the episode? It's not
Since
like
his
Role
he's
literally
being
couldn't be replaced by anybody else.
I mean, it could have just been. It could have
I
just
think it
been.
would.
It could have just been Lynn going to Paula again, but this time she's actually being honest with her that she's jealous of Margot.
Right.
I said Lincoln was pointless. He had no reason to be in this episode.
Pretty much. And then like we come to the whole aspect of like Lynn and Margot and the scenes with them together, and I'll be honest, I don't get the appeal of these two. And I don't get why so many people want to see them together beyond the whole thing of like they get along. I mean, I did like that Margot was pretty much like, I did like that towards the end Margot was essentially like telling straight to Lynn's face like I don't remember what she said, but she was essentially calling her out for her bullshit and was like pretty much like telling her like just saying like what Lynn was doing was wrong and that she's essentially just hogging the spotlight again because she can't accept the fact that she got some attention when it wasn't her. I liked that part, and that was like the one part from Margot in this episode that I liked because otherwise I found her character really bland. I mean, sure, she doesn't act all that egotistical, but that doesn't really make her that doesn't really add much to her character, other than that she's humble.
Oh, well, just be happy she's not a Lynn clone.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But for me, if she never returned in the series, I really wouldn't complain.
Well, then she's another one of Thanos' purges, along with Carol, Maggie, and Rocky.
I mean, we'll have to see. I mean, because, yeah, again, I don't think this is a terrible episode. I think this episode is surprisingly okay. And I could and just like with Middlemen, I completely get why a lot of people do like this episode. I'm just saying it's just not really an episode I love. And I've said it before, and I stand by what I said before, that I just don't really think Lynn is ever going to put out an episode that I will say I really enjoyed. Because, again, it's been 3 years, 3 seasons, nothing has really changed as far as my opinion on her goes.
Still, I
Yeah.
like to be proven wrong. I would love to be proven wrong if we do get a good episode about Lynn, but it may happen. You never know. All we can do is at least
for me, I don't really think that's gonna happen. That's okay, and I'm not gonna hate anybody who likes Lynn. I'm just saying she's just not a character for me.
some people just like characters for different reasons. When some just don't find them appealing, and that's just Lynn
Like, I
for
mean,
me.
I've been giving her chance after chance to just be like, all right, maybe this time she'll prove me wrong, and I don't like her in this episode. Still hasn't.
Still, I like to be proven wrong, but we can only wait. Until then, it was an alright attempt, guys, I guess.
I mean, I don't have much else to say. Anything else you guys want to talk about with this episode?
Yeah, that,
Really,
No.
like I said, I'll probably forget about it. Like I
That was
said,
sort
the
of
best
meant
thing
to
for
be
me
a
was that it had
segue.
some voice actors
Nice.
I liked, but that's about it. So should we move on to ratings now?
All right, so yeah, that was our new episodes we got, and not a lot stood out for me. Nothing great, but nothing terrible. For me, for my favorite episode of the week, best of the week for me will go to Home of the Fave. For me, I thought that was the easy standout. It was a pretty solid episode. It was enjoyable. Not great, but it was still pretty enjoyable. And then as far as worst of the week, I was going back and forth between predictability and Driving Ambition, but I'm gonna give more of the edge to Driving Ambition, mainly because I just feel like the comedy really wore off on me on that episode. So, all right, Yoshi.
Oh, that's right. Volsy usually goes first. I'm so used to that. Okay, so my best of the week. It's a pretty easy choice. It was Home of the Fave. I actually found it a great episode, not just good, but then again, I'll take anything great. Honorable mention, I'm gonna give it to Hero Today, Gone Tomorrow. Not bad, but also not good per se. It was alright. Probably one of Lynn's better episodes. But then again, there's also Net Gains, which I thought was okay as well. Worst of the week, that is Driving Ambition. The only episode this week I genuinely found outright bad, because it was so cringy, and I just didn't really care about anyone. And yeah, just honorable mention, that goes to predictability. Like I said at the beginning of this podcast, it lives up to its title. It's bloody predictable. Yes! Damn it, I was gonna
All
say
right. Okay, Muppet.
All right, best of the week obviously is Home of the Fave. And I want to mention this, but I got to meet Miguel Puga at a convention and he signed my Loud House book. But anyway, enough about that. Worst of the week, predictability. That's all I got.
All right, Cartoon OG.
And like you guys, best of the week, Home of the Fave. It was surprisingly pretty good, and I had a good time with it. I had a few nitpicks, but not enough to make the episode bad whatsoever. For worst episode, it's really hard to say because I didn't hate any of these episodes, but I'm probably gonna forget most of them. So I don't know. I guess I'll just go with predictability because my god, did that episode bore the hell out of me.
And that's it. That's our episode of Talking Loud. Next time we're going to be talking about the episode Cooked, which just like what we did with really loud music and the Thanksgiving episode. It's essentially just going to be us doing a breakdown of everything about that episode.
And then,
So, look
and then
out for
after that, there's 4 episodes left in season 3, and hopefully they'll all be a part of
Racing
the bomb.
Hearts.
Come on, guys! I want that episode so badly. I'm still waiting
Alright.
so much.
So
on
I really
Racing
hate that they're
Hearts.
airing the episodes out of order. That is so annoying.
It better be the first
is.
of
Just
the
they
week.
cooked for last.
Better be first
Alright,
episode of the
so-
week, so I don't have to wait any longer. But yeah, I'm excited.
So, thanks for checking out our podcast. Make sure to leave a like on this video. If you want to give your own opinion on these episodes or whatnot, let us know in the comments down below. We are always open to what you guys have to say, not just about our podcast, but also about the episodes as well. Make sure to share this video, subscribe to our channel, Talking Loud, and until next time, I'm Cynic the Critic.
I'm Yoshi Player.
I'm Muppet Spot.
And I'm the Cartoon OG, Cowabunga dudes.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Arrivederci.
Until
Later.
next time, keep on playing.